I just didn't think the Eagles could match up with his speed on the field. I thought he was a difference maker because he was so fast, and Tom Brady was really good at finding him in open space.
Mhm.
And he made a great catch. I think it was in the first quarter, and of course he got knocked out. Was it Malcolm Jenkins knocked him out? Speaking of concussions, and once he went down, my heart was like, I don't know how they come back from this, because he was the one person I thought could be the difference. And obviously, I didn't know at the time. I knew Malcolm Butler wasn't playing, and they started talking about it. I had no idea why Malcolm Butler wasn't playing, and I still don't think we know why he didn't play.
Well, if anything, I mean, you were at one of the most historic games ever. We were just talking about. I think you were. I'm not sure if you had your headphones on, but you was talking about being at Super Bowl 52,
Oh,
which is incredible. Super Bowl 52 was
And
one
of
for
course,
the books.
me as a Canadian, I choose the coldest place to go see a Super Bowl.
Of course, it's where you felt warm. It's where you felt good.
I would love to go more to like a sunny tropical destination, but no, I've seen games. I've been to Denver. I actually went to Oakland before they left. I saw the infamous, was it Gene Steratore with the card to measure?
Yeah. Oh my God.
I was at that game.
Wow, you've been to some great games, man.
I saw Tom Brady play Peyton Manning once in New England, and then I went to see them play in Denver. But that was when Brock Osweiler, Mike Anderson in overtime. That was a game. A Patriots special teamer whose name I can't remember muffed a punt, and my wife goes, "He's going to get cut," and he got cut the next day.
right.
Here's the rub. His wife is a Patriots fan.
Oh,
Well, I think she's a Tom Brady fan, to be honest. So I don't know what she's going to do now. But
yeah.
It's hard for me to contain my wife from being a Dolphins fan to being a Raiders fan now that Jimmy Garoppolo's in the building.
I'll always be a Jimmy Garoppolo fan.
I mean, I like the kid inherently. What I don't like is that my wife lusts over him.
Well,
we will see if that lust continues if Jimmy wins. Is it only because he wins, or is it?
I think she's literally told me to my face that he's the most perfect male specimen she's ever seen.
did he take up did he take up the two ladies of the night with their offer? I was just curious of that. Did he?
Yes.
Did he do that?
Yes, I actually did a video on that. Yeah.
That's amazing.
The
Now
cat
that
house.
I'd absolutely take that up.
Yeah. He said, as long as you're here as cutie, you get free sex at the Bunny Ranch whenever you want from these two girls. So two girls stepped up and said, that guy can do me anytime.
For free. That's
for free. As
amazing.
long as he's the quarterback of the Raiders, which is a unique
As
feature.
God intended, right?
As God intended. It's a unique feature that, like Miami has the 1 o'clock in the afternoon games, hoping that some of the players coming in, let's say Seattle comes into town, they came all across the country. You get a 1 o'clock start. Hopefully you had some mojitos on Saturday night. You're nice and dehydrated, and then you hit the field and you mess up. That's our superpower here in Las Vegas is we give sex.
That's a good superpower.
hopefully we can have these guys bang it out all night, and then in the morning they're just all tuckered out from doing it.
You said you went to school on the East Coast. How great is it being on the West Coast and watching sports in that time zone?
I can't even tell you. I try not to rub it into my East Coast people, just because they do understand.
10 a.m. football on a Sunday. Oh my God.
Pancakes, football. So what I do is here, it's uniquely to Las Vegas, is that, and Brandon, my friend that will hopefully join us soon, what we usually do if we're not in his man cave, we go to a casino. We got to get there I'd say about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning if you really want to get a good seat. And then you're basically in front of every single television in 105 inches each. And you can take your pick as to where you want to go. They usually have $1 hot dogs, $1 beers, and you don't have to throw the house out the window monetarily to go have a good time every Sunday. And that's the appeal of Las Vegas to me, is that they give you so many ways to watch and so many grandiose ways to watch, like incredible ways to watch. And then they throw some specials at you. Hopefully you'll throw $20 in a machine here and there, or put $100 on 17 in roulette, but that's their hope. But really the stuff for us is really kind of affordable. So it's really fun.
Yeah, but we can watch football on our phones.
Hell yeah. And
do you think we talked about obviously the stadium experience, but do you think your setup that you're talking about there, but just the at-home experience now is so great? What is the appeal of going to a stadium? I understand there's the being there and watching, but the at-home experience is so good now. some people, I think, prefer to watch football games at home as opposed to going to a stadium to watch.
I love going to the stadium to watch games, and I've been to multiple stadiums, and I follow the Jaguars. I went up to Minnesota where they lost. I've watched them 3 times in Kansas City where they lost. I should, as a fan, never go to another game live because the Jaguars lose every single time I go see
But
them
see,
live.
this is my theory. It's not just you, Dave. There's inherently too many fans that go when they lose, or the Chiefs have so many fans that only win when they go that they're just outnumbering you. It's not your singular fault. I can do as many push-ups as I want to help the Cowboys win. If collectively Cowboys fans aren't doing enough push-ups, it doesn't matter how many I do. That's what I have to realize.
Sitting at home, I put on the game on the big screen, and I don't care if it's a London game and I get up at 7 in the morning. That's the thing I wouldn't like about the West Coast, 5 in the morning London games or whatever time they would start there. And sit down on my couch. I have a television to the side. Now, it's not like going to one of those casinos where you got 20 huge screens in front of you. But
those casinos.
But my couch is a pretty good experience for an NFL Sunday. So,
and more often than not, you're finding money as opposed to losing money.
Yeah,
exactly right. And you're not tempted like the degenerate gambler I am. However, I will tell you that my house experience is great. I just moved into this particular home, but I can tell you I have a 55-inch screen here. I have another one off to the side. So when it starts for $10 a month, let's say you have YouTube TV or whatever streaming service you have, you can add the Red Zone channel for $10 a month. So tell me what a better deal is for me to buy a bag of popcorn and make a couple of roast beef sandwiches and sit my ass down for 7 hours of uninterrupted football. That's everything everybody wants. However, you do get antsy. You do get antsy sometimes knowing that you live in a city where things are happening. And I'm like, okay, I want to go. Like around week 3, I'm like, I got to go somewhere. I got to go mix it up with other people. Vegas is really unique in that way because you go to a casino and you see every single jersey. You see a Packers jersey. I'm wearing my Ray Finkel jersey. You see Jaguars. You see Vikings. You see Raiders. You see a disproportionate amount of Cowboys fans. but they're pretty much all represented, and that's what I like. When I used to go out in Miami, I born and raised there, we go out, yeah, sure, it's beautiful to see a sea of aqua. It really is. But really, the test of an NFL fan is to be able to mix it up with other people and share history like we're doing now. Like, hey, man, you were at that Super Bowl. How did it feel as a Cowboys fan to feel that? That's what I like to do. I have no resentment towards any team except for the Jets and the New England Patriots.
Except for the other teams in your division.
Las Vegas as a sports city, have you really embraced the Raiders? And how does that compare with how you've embraced, obviously, the Golden Knights coming off their first Stanley Cup in franchise history?
No comparison. And I can tell you that's a great question, Dan Rod, because I can tell you that the city has not embraced the Raiders in that way. It's not a homegrown team. I can tell you that I was at Toshiba Plaza right in the front of the Stanley Cup parade, and I saw them all come out. I almost touched the cup. That's how close it was to me. It was. I was under the drones, and that was true fandom. That was true fandom. The Raiders are still a part of California lore.
But see, as a person that grew up in the Greater Toronto area, rooting for the Toronto Maple Leafs, they have not won a Stanley Cup in my lifetime. They have not won a Stanley Cup since 1967. To see this expansion team come in and win a Stanley Cup in 6 years,
I know.
Listen, I root for the Cup. I was happy to see the Golden Knights win, but it is painful as Leaf fans, I'm sure, to see these expansion teams come in and win cups, and teams like that live in Tampa, Florida, they're playing Tampa, Florida, or Carolina. These really hockey hotbeds.
Yeah, real hotbed of hockey activity.
We all fall back on the fact that, well, how many Canadians were on that team that one?
Exactly.
So that's what we fall back on.
Come on, we have Swedish guys. We got Marchessault and mostly the guys are from Canada. Mark Stone. I'm not going to sit here. Tarangelo. I'm not Petrangelo. I'm not going to sit here and rifle them all off, but mostly Canadians. My brother's a huge hockey fan now. And we were both from Miami. I stayed with the NFL, but I really appreciated the Golden Knights, and I was never a Panthers fan, so I became a Golden Knights fan in 2017 when I arrived here, and so did the team. So it was a moment,
the perfect Stanley Cup for you, then, actually.
Exactly. And I'll give you a little betting story. the year that I got here, it's 2017, and they just had unveiled they pulled the wool off of the logo for the Golden Knights. I was like, that's a cool logo. Maybe I can get behind this. I like the colors. I'm not a hockey guy per se, so I can be Dolphins, Heat, Hurricanes, Golden Knights, sure. The betting line was ridiculous when they said just to make it to the Stanley Cup the first year. If I would have put $50 down, I would have won $37,000.
You had put how much down?
$50.
You would have won 37,000.
Yeah. So that was ridiculous, and I was there. I had just gotten the app, and I was like, "Who does that? That's a dumb bet." I was expansion team, right. And there we go. It would have been a different time.
But then you see all these. Then this is betting, and now betting is so accessible on your phone. You can bet on anything live in bets. You can bet on play-by-play. It's crazy, but I forget where I'm going with this tangent. But yeah, you see all the time these betting sites, they put out these crazy bets that people make. They don't tell you all the millions of bets people lost, but you always see that one bet. Oh, this guy had a 23-leg parlay and he hit. And he bet $1 and won $75,000. Right? It's always crazy. You always hear the success stories. But
1 second. Sorry, let me send this. Hold on 1 second. Let me
You're
grab this. I'm grabbing it. Hey, Brandon, you didn't get it? I sent it to you. Durham LV, right? Or is it B Durham LV? Give me a second.
Speaking of bets, I was obviously when my wife went to the University of Florida, I got to watch some high school football there. I saw Derrick Henry play as a high schooler.
Yeah.
When he was playing for, I think it was Yulee, if I remember correctly, against Gainesville High, and he was incredible. If I could have made a futures bet then that he would win a Heisman, I don't know how much I could have made, but I saw a high school Derrick Henry play. It was crazy.
That's awesome.
And Clinton Portis came to. He's I guess a Gainesville High alum. I didn't know that at the time, but he came to the
podcast. Hit the link, and I'll let you in. I'll let you into the backstage.
What jersey do you have on, Dave?
Oh, this would be my Trevor Lawrence jersey. Oh. I was wearing my I was wearing my Mark Brunell for the first one, just to prove that I have been a fan since the beginning.
I can't believe that.
That I've been a fan since the beginning.
It's just it didn't make any sense when I first found out you're from.
Yeah, it didn't make sense, but 95. Now you had talked about teams moving and expansion teams. I have a question. What are you guys' thoughts on this year? The Tennessee Titans, who of course they're going to wear throwback uniforms. And the throwback uniforms they're going to wear twice during the season, they haven't picked the games yet, are going to be the Oilers uniforms. I think, Rude, what do you guys
think? I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, but
it's an interesting question because they are the Oilers, but there is a team in Houston.
That's my point. If the Baltimore Ravens were to do the same thing, they'd be wearing Cleveland Browns uniforms and
against the Browns.
And interestingly enough, if they pick December 31st to wear the throwback uniforms, they are going to be playing Houston Texans. Could they both wear throwback uniforms and both be wearing Oilers uniforms?
Like a game of Madden. It's different because obviously with the Baltimore Ravens, Cleveland Browns came back and they are still sort of the same franchise. But when you have the Tennessee Titans, their history is the former Houston Oilers. So if you look at all their records and everything, it's their history. The Houston Texans, none of their records date back to the Oiler days. They're just when the Texans came about. Was that 2002?
2002. David Carr.
David Carr, who was probably better than Derek Carr if he had an offensive line.
David Carr was awesome. David Carr was awesome when he came out. What's up, big dog? This is my friend Brandon Durham.
Hey, everybody.
This is Dave and Dan Rod, and we are trying this out, and we're having a good time so far. It doesn't even seem like work.
I do this anyways. All I do is talk football. So
exactly right. So welcome, dude. So we're talking
about the throwback uniforms.
That's that's what I just brought it up. I was just question. Tennessee's going to be wearing a Houston Oiler throwback.
Yeah, I saw that
2 times during the season, and I don't think they should be allowed to. I get it's their history. technically.
No,
But
yeah.
Houston's not another team. It'd be
Yeah, and
my,
if Houston didn't have a team, then yeah, I would be okay with it. But since they gave Houston a team, the right's got to stay with the city, right?
and my argument would be if Baltimore Ravens were allowed to do the same thing, do they get to wear Cleveland Brown uniforms? Because technically that is that team.
Do the Washington
Oh, yeah.
Commanders get to wear throwback uniforms?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right.
Total different question.
To,
but
to the
good one.
football
Good
team. I don't know what you guys are talking about. They're
Yes,
football.
Yeah,
to
right.
the
I want
football
old
team.
Smoking Joe out there, right? They're going to change their name again, which is oddly enough.
What do you mean?
They're going to scrap that whole thing. They're not going to be called the Commanders either. That the new owner doesn't like that though, so they're gonna probably do a new branding. They've already been fishing for some new names.
Wait a minute. After all the merch, after the change of after the field naming, after all of these things, they're going to have another. I mean, nobody thought that through. Number one, I hate the Commanders because what do the fans call them? Let's go commies.
And
You know
so
what I mean?
did the fans. Yeah, they and so that was a pushback. And then they built that their stadium way out there, so it's hard for the guys to travel to. So it lowers the things on that. They got to build a whole new stadium. They're going to build a whole new name. They're going to try to wash the branding off from anything from 1999 on, and it's going to be kind of cool to see. It's almost going to be like a new team, to some extent, because it had such a bad taste in your mouth for the last 25 years. I like to see what they turned into.
Are you guys personally? I don't think anybody here is Native American, but does anybody feel personally attacked, or do you feel like that name is offensive at all? The Redskins? Is that offensive?
It sounds offensive when I hear it, but it
now
was built in.
maybe.
Yeah, now yeah, I think what it's one of those things where it's like it probably should have got rid of a long time ago, but that it got stuck with us. Where it's like they're just still called the Skins to me, still
Always.
It's like the Guardians now, and even in Canada, the Edmonton Eskimos are now the Edmonton Elks, right? So even Eskimos.
That's right.
I miss the old Washington Bullets, but they had to change that because that sniper was killing people in D.C. I always, it's not so much when they change it. It's always like, it's never for anything better. It's not like, oh man, you take him from a bullet to a wizard,
The wizard. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, it's just like basketball when they said like the Los Angeles Lakers moved to LA where there are no lakes, right?
Yeah,
right.
No at this point,
I love the Utah Jazz, because when I think,
Utah,
Jazz, you think of Utah.
Salt Lake City, yeah. I think it should be like, what the Pelicans did was it was like, hey, there's no such things as Hornets really out here. Let's make up our own new name. And then if Charlotte wants it back, which is the stupid Bobcats name, like then they're able to get their name back, right? And so I would have asked, if I was New Orleans, I would have asked, hey, can I get my Jazz back from you, Utah? And then you guys could call yourselves like, the Utah Smiths or something, right?
The Mormons.
The Mormons, yeah. And then have like Big and Young out there.
And the logo could be a guy with like 7 wives around him.
The Utah basketball team.
The Utah basketballs. For sure.
Well, you guys, what's so how you guys talking more just NFL or just all sports around?
It's all NFL, but it can it can branch out if it makes sense. But we were talking a little Hard Knocks. We were also talking a bit of the AFC East and how hard it is to come out of that division. Dave thinks that 2 teams out of the AFC East can
probably three, definitely 2.
Dan Rod thinks 1. So the winner, and the loser of the, if I'm not mistaken, Dan Rod, the loser of the first Monday night game between the Jets and the Bills will
does not make the playoffs. Yes, that's my hot take of the day.
What's your take?
I wouldn't go that far, but I do think it's going to be that third team in there is going to be like fighting for the playoff spot, but maybe comes up short because of it. Where you get that like you're that good 9 and 8 team, but you don't make it. And then there's going to be some team that's like in the NFC, AFC West that might be 9 and 8 too, but they have a better win-loss record, like a Chargers or something to get
a 9-7-1 team.
Yeah,
9-7-1. Yeah, right.
Don't sleep on that on that tie. Don't sleep on the tie.
Wait, not the AFC South, because these guys don't think they think they're only going to have one team. AFC South, maybe has a shot at.
I think we petitioned Roger Goodell. Don't even let an AFC South team in the playoffs.
They've always been. Yeah, they've always been kind of just dragging one team in there for years. It's either like even when one team gets their shit together, the other three teams always falter.
I'm just glad to finally get that team. It's been a while, and it's because of this guy right here.
Oh man,
number 16,
Sunshine.
Yeah,
there you go.
Golden Locks.
The prince that's promised.
The Lord
That's
Farquaad.
Right. My Disney prince.
Bro, you do have the prettiest quarterback in the NFL. I ain't gonna front on that.
Here's my hot take, and it is a little bit being a fan, and it's a little bit of just watching and really digging the team that they've added to their lucky end of the season run last year. I'm thinking the Jaguars definitely make the playoffs, and they even get to the AFC Championship game.
Oh, come on.
Not going to say they're going to be in the Super Bowl yet, but this is the year that it's going to be one of our best years.
Who's going to be?
I think they can be because the division's so bad, right?
Here, hypothetically, Dave. Sorry. So if you think 3 teams are going to make it out of the AFC East, your Jaguars win your division. That means chances are they're playing one of those wildcard teams. So if you're the Jaguars, are you confident in your division round matchup or your wildcard matchup taking on a Buffalo or a Miami or New York at home?
Absolutely.
At home. You're going to be on the road, and you're going to beat those teams on the road.
Well,
no, Jackson will be at home.
Yeah, Jacksonville will have a home game, and we might have a bye week. No, that's not going to happen.
No, it's possible.
No, it's not going to happen. Because Kansas City.
You know what though? But that
it
seems like it wouldn't. Yeah. But when you probably have done right, you should be getting 5 wins out of that division. You know what I'm saying? Houston's mailing it in. Like you literally, the other 3 teams in the division all have rookie quarterbacks, right? Like, and so because I think Tannehill will lose his job to Will Levis sometime through the season, and so you're like literally everybody got drafted in that division, and now you're like, okay, when the most experienced guy in there is the 3rd-year overall Trevor Lawrence. There's not a Tom Brady. There's no one overseeing it. That's going to bully him down. He gets kind of own the division, and so I really think they're going to have a really good year, but they might be more inflated, right? Where they're like, they get, there's always a team that gets that big record. You're talking to a guy who's a Vikings fan. You get the big record, but they're like, if we get into a tight one in the playoffs, it's going to be tough, right? So I think, I don't know, maybe the Jags get that big, that big, but I don't know if they're built for it. The defense still susceptible.
Let's take a quick look.
They still low in sacks. They really don't have anybody past the rusher. Hopefully, Allen picks it up, or Josh Allen.
I'm sorry. I was going to say a quick look at the as you're talking. Let's take a look at the Jaguar schedule, so don't miss out on that. Looks like they open up at the Colts and Anthony Richardson, September 10th.
But come on, week 2. That's your bye week
for like the first 10 weeks. You're not starting
week 2 gets the bye.
Yeah.
All right.
Chiefs Jags for the bye.
Trevor Lawrence, Gardner Minshew. I've got shirts of both of them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Minshew was a beast for the Jags, so he might come back and like haunt you and win one.
I actually like that guy. He's going to be who's the red-haired guy who went to every single team and was a decent quarterback, but always the backup.
Garcia.
Any of them, he's going to be that guy. he'll be traded. He'll be traded, but he's always going to be a decent backup, and he's not going to be. Yeah, he's a starter there right now, but we'll see. Is he a starting quarterback? He's a great backup.
So
he's one of those guys that like he can. I always think like he has a little Ryan Fitzpatrick, where like he can like win,
that's what I'm talking about.
Good for a couple of games where you're like, hey man, maybe Minshew Mania something, and then 4 picks and something like that, where you go, that's why you don't leave him as a starter, right? But I think they just kind of wait because Richardson's so raw that they're like, look at maybe week 7, week 8 is when as soon as you can get that kid in there to even like get his lumps.
Anthony Richardson has one of the best arms I've ever seen. Like he reminded me of the lasers that Vic was throwing left-handed. Like I've never seen Michael Vick throw a wobbly pass. It's always been a laser. So that reminded me, and the way the ball hit the receiver, the pat when it hits the. I mean, it's a lot of velocity on that throw.
Yeah, that's true. Now, can he read a defense? Right? Can he figure who the middle linebacker is? He's just going to run it every time. It's one of those ones, especially with those running quarterbacks. They get their first read, they don't see it, they just hike it out. So he's not. He's gonna try to win games with his legs for the first couple of years.
Yeah, he's going to be unsure about the throw.
Evaluating a quarterback's got to be so tough because a guy like Anthony Richardson, all the intangibles, right? Looks great in shorts, throws the ball like you said, lasers. But then he plays at the University of Florida playing SEC defenses, and he disappears sometimes. Was not great in many of those games. So is that because Florida is just not suited for what Anthony Richardson does? But it's tough.
It is. That's a good point. He kind of disappears.
We're looking at the Jags schedule, Dave. They really did your team dirty there. In weeks 13 to 15, you take on the NFC or the AFC North 3 straight weeks: Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Baltimore.
Yeah, it's nasty shit. And then you got. So we have, that's dirty. And then that looks like, you got the Texans there. That's a win, right? That's a win. You kind of call that a win.
I don't know that because the Texans kind of always play the Jags tough.
The Texans always do.
Good. The Texans, the Texans could be 1-15, but that one will be against the Jags.
Yep.
But
I know because I lost a lot of money betting on the Jags.
But that's only if they're fighting for the first overall pick in the draft.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
Dave,
true.
As a Jags fan, Dave, after the bye week 9, going into week 10, you have San Francisco at home, and then you have Tennessee at home the week after. Do you think that is a critical part of your schedule? What record do you want going into those 2 games, and how do you feel about those 2 games?
Well, if that is week number 1, actually just starting out, we play Kansas City week 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't quite see it on there. Let me pull it up on mine so I can see it a little bit better.
Kansas City at home, your first home game of the season against the Chiefs.
Here, a little bit bigger for you.
Now, keep in mind, Chiefs will get the mini bye because they're coming off the Thursday night or the week before, so they'll have a little bit more time to prepare.
The 10-day bye.
Anytime you play the Chiefs, I mark it as a loss for me.
It is
right.
It could be, it could be 1 day notice. So it's like
they're coached so well. They're coached so differently and so well.
It's really gonna be
Doug Peterson, Andy Reid.
Yeah, that back end of that secondary was bad for the Jags. The safeties, the corners were rough. They didn't get much of a pass rush. They need that guy that they drafted overall, number 1 from Georgia, to really be one of the sack. They need him to be kind of a Micah Parsons character, and they need him to get sacked. Same with the Josh Allen guy. And so they need to be Saxonville again, right? And so
right.
It's going to be all about that defense. I think Trevor Lawrence can get you 22, 27 points a game, but, that back end, man, you could pass it on him.
I did see.
That's true.
Sunshine would drop 28 points a game at times. Like Sunshine would make it happen. Now, do we think Travis Etienne is the answer though? Is that the feature back? Is he that good?
Well,
he looks like a scat back.
Yeah.
Not only
2 years,
good,
that's it.
Not only is he good, but they just added Tank Bigsby, and that dude is tearing it. He is tearing it up in camp. So
I always think Etienne like an Alvin Kamara type. Like he needs a banger with him, right? Like you need that kind of like Mark Ingram guy, so you can have a Kamara come out there. Like I still think Jacksonville needs a banger, right? They need someone to push.
What about an Ezekiel Elliott?
No. Well, let's not pay him.
That would be. I wouldn't mind that. That would be an awesome.
28-year-old running back, sir. They don't exist. You don't hire them.
That's where we.
They might as well be 48.
No, he'll volunteer.
The one thing
I just want to eat.
Ezekiel's probably one of the best pass protecting backs.
Pass blockers,
blitzes. Like so to be phenomenal. He's going to be a guy that your running back gets depleted. There's always a team that position just gets nailed. Like where it's like you're on your 5th guy, and then they start bringing in guys like Ezekiel Elliott. They'll bring Kareem Hunt. They'll bring in, Le'Veon Bell for tryouts, and they just keep one of them. And then unfortunately that's your career for a while. But you're out of the league.
That's that's a really good point. Right around the middle of the season, it's so pivotal for the Jacksonville Jaguars to win, especially this game here. That looks like a loss to me. The 49ers look like a loss coming across Florida.
In answer to your question, Dan Rod, we're going to go into that bye week. I'm hoping with a 5-3 record. We'll lose to Kansas City. Buffalo is another one, and then between Atlanta and New Orleans, one of those two games we'll probably lose. I think we'll win the other one. So if I can go into the bye week at 5-3, I'm pretty happy. So, and there are some tough ones. You're right. San Francisco, but going towards the end of the year is where we should get 4 or 5 in a row again. I mean, the very end of it, we're looking at week 14, Cleveland, Baltimore, Tampa, Carolina, Tennessee. That should be 5 wins. So we should end up.
Be careful
probably
betting against Mike Vrabel. He was a very good coach and almost got that win against them last year with Josh Dobbs starting, right? And so if he can, he's like a Belichick guy where they're never going to be like a 4-12 team. He's like his coaching level will get him 7 to 8 wins. I think. I think they'll be competitive. They're not going to win anything, but they'll compete a little bit to make Jacksonville's season harder, right? The Jacksonville's never really owned the division, like won every team in a row. The best thing they will usually beat is the Colts usually, but the Titans usually split, and the Texans usually lose against.
Right.
This is the beauty of the NFL. The way that they set up their schedule, it's so hard for a team that won a division. They'll always have a tougher schedule than the last place team in a division, right? So it's just they want the ultimate parity, and they're the one league that always achieves it. And that's why every year, like 5 new teams make it, 5 teams drop out.
Yeah, and
to add to that is because what they do is now that because see what happens too is when you're a last place schedule, you get to play all the last place teams.
Exactly.
So you get so the Jags got to play all the losers from that. Now they're the first place schedule. So now they have to play all the division winners, right? And so now you got to play the Bengals, you got to play the Chiefs in the season. And so all of a sudden now that's why usually you take a step back because it's like, and then there's always that loser team that gets that easy schedule and they can fluff their numbers. And that's what Jacksonville got to do last year because Urban was so bad the year before.
Urban was bad.
Don't say that name.
Oh man,
okay.
Urban got some girls. Urban got some girls in Cincinnati, baby. You got hoes in different areas.
They got a real coach in there. Yeah, it's now. Did they pick up? I want to see the Calvin Ridley thing. I think that's going to be key. If that with Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk and those boys. Is this offense going to fly? And if it does,
forget about that. Forget about that. Calvin Ridley, who's a literal game changer in Atlanta.
Did you say they took a gamble on Calvin Ridley?
Oh, nice one.
Well, you know what? I always get weird when a guy misses a whole year for some weird stuff. I'm still waiting for Deshaun Watson to come back, right? And so, anytime or like where you want a running back, it's like Le'Veon Bell. Then they go, okay, we'll just come back next year, just 1 year, and it's like, and then it always takes them a year to. Almost like a half a year just to even get their
to ramp up
and stuff. And yeah, so I'm always like, is Calvin Ridley something maybe you look for in the back end of the season, but struggles a little bit.
That could be a division.
Not a guy to draft you on your fantasy right away, right?
I'm willing to say, is there any who's the game breaker in the AFC South? Like who's the one player out of all 4 teams, or a couple players out of those 4 teams that can literally take a game and break it?
Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
No
argument.
Calvin Ridley in his form, in the right form.
I'd like to think he gets something from Hopkins if he has anything left. And so we'll see.
Calvin Ridley and Deshaun and DeAndre Hopkins, D.D. Hop together.
Well, D.D. Hop's on the Titans,
right? Right in the same division.
Yeah, in the same division. Well, yeah, I guess and thing, but. Because Michael Pittman's actually a pretty good player, but they just have nobody throwing to him for the Colts, right? And then let's see what Jonathan Taylor comes back to, right? Because he was a beast.
If he comes back.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, right. Irsay's really grinding them, right? Irsay really making it though you don't want to show up to work.
It is, man. But let me tell you, I don't know. Cal, that's something you haven't even talked about that, Dave. Are you excited to have a game breaker on your team like Galvin? Like
it is the piece that was missing, and exactly what my beautiful quarterback needs.
He's so beautiful.
He's going to give him a real, and not that they didn't already have real weapons with Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. because they're great. I mean, they're very good receivers, but you bring in somebody like Ridley, it's a game changer.
The game changer.
It's gonna be huge. I'm excited.
So
This is the first Jacksonville quarterback, right? That's been like elite, right? Like even kind of pushed up to it, right? They've always either had retreads or Brooke Bortles, right? So this is like the first Jackson in the franchise history. You're like, even Mark Brunell came from another team, right? This is drafted, homegrown, your own. This is something where it almost took 20-something years to finally get a guy that there's baked in. Love him.
Yeah.
Danrod, do you agree with that? He just said elite. Do you agree that Trevor Lawrence is elite?
I don't know if we can. The tough conversation with quarterbacks and elite, it's tough to say who's elite. I think you have Patrick Mahomes is elite, and then after that, where do you rank them?
Yeah, we use it too sparingly, I think.
Elite. But my question with Calvin Ridley. So obviously he was traded November 1st, 2022, but still suspended. Being suspended, is he allowed to interact with the team in any way, or is he just a part of the Jaguars but cannot have? Is he allowed to have a playbook? Obviously, he can watch the games, and he might not be able to go to the facilities. But what is his involvement with the team since he's been there for many months, even though only being reinstated in February? So between November and February, what kind of involvement is he allowed to have with the team?
I think he was able to go to OTAs. I think once they bitched that up there, they threw him the playbook and they just let him go in there.
Let's take a look.
Well, right now he's been all over the field. He's
number 0 though. How do you feel about number 0?
I love it. The only thing better, number 00, which they need to bring back as well. From the from the speaking of the old Houston Oilers, I believe it was was it Billy White Shoes Johnson, or was he number 88? I can't remember.
Billy White Shoes Johnson.
I loved the Houston Oilers. They were my favorite team to play on Tecmo Bowl. They would run the run and shoot.
Warren Moon,
Haywood Jeffries, Ernest Givens. They would run it up there. And that's how I became a Vikings fan. Warren Moon. I loved Warren Moon. He went to the Vikings, and then I was like, okay, I'll be a Vikings fan. I've never been to Minnesota in my life. But love Warren Moon very much,
And I apologize. It was Ken Burrow was number 00 on the Houston Oilers way back in the day. I did have to look that up.
Texans should have just took the Oilers name back.
Agreed.
I don't know what a Texan is like on that nature.
It's a Texan, bro. Come on,
or something. Yeah, the California, like the Las Vegas, the Los Angeles Californians. Like what funny enough with the Texans is since no one's talking about them, we don't know what the hell they're going to get from Stroud and DeMeco Ryan is. Do you get that kind of like first season, they end up 5-6 wins kind of thing, and surprising some people, just winning on, defense and trying out and hard work. So
this wide receiver Calvin Ridley is dealing with a toe injury, which we didn't know about, and is going to be limited in practice during training camp. Ridley is entering his first training camp with the Jaguars after being suspended for the entirety of the 2022 NFL season. He was traded to Jacksonville from the Atlanta Falcons, which is a trade. I thought it was just a release. In early 2022, and really had almost missed the entire 2021 due to personal reasons. You mean gambling?
That's exactly what it is.
Second year under Coach Doug Peterson. He also took this team from an awful and abysmal Urban Meyer run team to high expectations for 2023. Now with some added game breakers, because we all admit that the AFC South probably has King Henry and then Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins now. So it's more dynamic, certainly, than it was in the last couple of years. It was kind of ho-hum. I would watch AFC South games, and I don't know, other than Derrick Henry.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Well, and the better Ridley,
on Thursday nights.
The better Ridley does, the better it is for the Falcons for that trade. If he makes the team, they get a fourth round pick. If he's a starter, I think it is, they get a 3rd round pick, and if they re-sign him next year, they get a 2nd round pick. So the better he does for them, the better it works out for Atlanta, and the more we give up.
It's a 2nd. Yeah, I can't see it. Definitely going to make the team. Probably going to be a starter. I can't. Maybe even if he's like the slot guy behind Kirk and God, who's the other guy that was catching balls last year for him?
Christian Kirk and
Zay Jones.
Zay Jones.
Zay Jones. Thank you.
Yep.
Right, the old Raider, and so. maybe put him in the slot on that nature, but and no one's good. Yeah, too much high hopes. Definitely wasn't going to get released as a first round draft pick unless he like killed someone or something. He just put a bet in for $1,500. And the funny part is he did it. Everybody shamed him. After this season, like 15 other cats did it.
Because now it's legal in your state.
Yeah, it's like, and so it's
like if someone if an NFL player, I'm not sure of the rules on this, but an NFL player comes to Las Vegas during the season or whatever, comes to play the Raiders, and then they go to they go to the Caesars. They can't put a $5 bet on a parlay. It's no.
So I don't know all the rules exactly, but they're not allowed to bet on any football games, period. And I think what a lot of them are getting in trouble for is you're not allowed to place a bet in the team facility or as part of a team function. So a lot of them are betting well on the team grounds, even though they're not betting on football. So if you even put like a $5 bet on a basketball game on a Tuesday, but you're in the team facility, that's what they're getting dinged for.
Gotcha.
And they check your IP address and they go, "Oh man, you could have just walked 15 feet outside the door, but now we got to suspend you." Like you really needed to get that parlay in.
Let me circle back on this because obviously Brandon and I are in Las Vegas. What about fantasy football?
Yeah, they don't. They just don't.
Are they allowed to play fantasy?
Yeah. Are they allowed
to?
They
do.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they
just don't make it public
for money.
Yeah, just don't make it public on the money kind of thing. But it's also true is what the betting on the game. They're more worried about the integrity of the game. Betting on fantasy football, they really just don't care because like if you're drafting Joe Burrow, like it's not like you're not going to sack Joe Burrow or something like to get his points up. So, but they're worried about you shaving his points.
You sure about that? Sure about that?
Everybody like Joe Burrow. But it's like get your cousin to place the bet. Like there's just I know it's a stupid rule,
silly,
but it's easy to maneuver around, and so it's one of those things where it's like, in Vegas when they used to do the drug test, right, for weed, it was a piss test, and he'd be like, "Oh man," and I'd be like, "Yeah, it's kind of a pain in the ass, but it's so easy to pass that if you fail it, then you probably don't deserve the job, right?" Like
you can't critically think your way out of a pee test.
Yeah, and it's like you can't figure a way how to place this bet without getting yourself caught, then you probably deserve to get caught, right? So but it's bigger and bigger than I've ever seen before. Every sport talks about the spreads. Every show has a game.
Every show has a spread now. Every single one because it's big on.
I love it.
Isn't it like Al Michaels used to always kind of hint at it, but now he can flat out say it.
Right.
Against
they'd be like, "Hey, for the guys in the desert out there, this game's still worth something, right?" When it's a blowout because it's going to be over.
Exactly.
Now they're like, "Hey, it's 4.5. I don't think they'll cover, Bill." Like, what is it? So, I remember they wouldn't even let us put on during the Super Bowl. They wouldn't even let us do Super Bowl commercials. You couldn't do the what happens in Vegas leaves in Vegas commercial. They wouldn't allow it. And now we're having our first Super Bowl here in Vegas. It's phenomenal how far we've came leaps and bounds, and now we've had a draft here and stuff like that, and so Vegas and sports world's coming together.
It really is coming to our own. I do want to ask a question before we do that though. When I got here in 2017, Brandon, you remember we've been friends for over 20 years. When I got here and they built the stadium, they were suspending people for weed, right? Left and right, zero tolerance. Mm-hmm. And then on top of the stadium, there would be like dispensary advertisements. Yeah. So, like, how do they have they ever talked about that? Have they ever said like the dichotomy of like and the sheer hypocrisy of like suspending people in the NFL and Raiders, and then inside the parking lot it says cannabiotic
and racism at the end of the goal line, and
it's over now, right?
Right, it's over.
Okay, good.
Just put it on the back of the helmet so I remember. So it is what but they've always had a tongue-in-cheek thing. They want the money, but they don't want to attach it themselves with. They want the money from the corporate, but they don't want you bragging about it, kind of thing. And so they finally kind of dove into it a little bit. But that's why you don't see it has to be retired players that do those commercials for the betting, right? That's why you see the Peyton Mannings and stuff, right? You can't have Patrick Mahomes going, "Hey, bet on Caesars," kind of a thing, right? So they try to really threaded line. They want the money from it because they know that increased gambling increases viewership.
Increases weed.
I don't give a shit about a Thursday night game until I got $15.
Right.
And like, oh man, Cardinals and Rams. I don't know about that. $20 on them. I'm like, well, let's see what this thing got to do.
That's different.
Let's see what Stafford's doing this year, right? So it does bring in there. And now most states have it. You can do it from an app. It's hard to watch football without it. I don't lie to you. And unfortunately, even if it's like $2, I want to choose a side, and then at the end of the outcome, I want to feel either happy or sadness, not just content.
I need juice, baby. I need that juice.
I do, yeah. Like baseball, maybe I could, but basketball, football, I'm like, wait, and especially with in play now, I could just be like, hey, halfway through the game, man.
Dan Rod was talking about in play. Is it legal in Canada? Is there a place you can do it? I know there's casinos in Canada, but if you wanted to place a sports bet, where would you go?
I believe we have, I see commercials all the time for betting apps and stuff. The caveat is, of course, the different provincial laws. So I live in Ottawa, close to Gatineau and Quebec. So it's like, am I allowed to bet if I'm in Quebec? Not in Quebec. But yeah, there's definitely like sports book apps. I didn't watch Breaking Bad, but one of the guys from Breaking Bad, not Malcolm in the Middle guy. The other one. He's always on the commercials.
That's awesome.
Aaron Paul. Yeah.
Are you a Senators fan out there? I'm just.
No, I'm not a Senators fan. I grew up in the GTA, so I root more for the Leafs than anything. I was a big Pittsburgh Penguins fan. I love Mario Lemieux. He was the one I loved.
All right. So. I was like, man, Senators. They've been rough for a while, but Maple Leafs. I was like, oh. But I know they love their Senators.
They're even worse. Yeah.
He was just saying how mad he is that we won the Stanley Cup.
Well, I gotta let him know, right?
He wasn't mad. He was actually really cool about it.
Love my nights, as you can see everything nighted up back here.
Move your head a little bit.
I think this is.
Move your head.
Yeah.
Move your head to see the flag. Move your head.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, it is. And then I put the bar back here now, and so now I got and then I'm looking for a table that's a game table with night stuff on there as well too.
Make it custom. Yeah, just get it custom.
Yeah, but speaking of the football season, this is going to be the craziest football season because every team seems like they're pushing their chips in, right? It seems like every team has tried to do something to be better. So there's only a handful of teams like the Colts or something like that. But most teams are like the Cardinals. But like most teams is like, the Jets, the Dolphins, Baltimore is doing something. Bengals are still good. Chiefs aren't going nowhere. Chargers made it better. So it's like, this is one of those seasons where you're going to see a lot of firing at the end because high expectations. There's going to be people who don't meet them, and then it's going to be a horrible Black Monday where it's like it's coaches, GMs, someone's got to pay for us not doing what we thought we were going to do, and so I want to see what happens on that. This is high pressure.
Do you feel like it's just because we've missed football so much and really there isn't a lot different about this season? It's just that we miss it so much and somebody throw a damn pass than it is like it's going to be the best season of all time. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm with you.
His statement could have been insert year here, and you could just made the same statement any year.
You know what I mean?
True.
Change team A and change team B who aren't trying. And other than that,
it definitely you do get that every year. But at least like the NFC has a bunch of teams that like we'll see how they kind of pan out, But but that's a huge youth movement, right? And so you have a lot of teams that are literally having guys just whether it's Jordan Love, Justin Fields, I don't know who the hell the Cardinals are going to start. Whether it's the Rams, Brock Purdy's going to be starting the second year. You have a lot of 1 and 2 year guys. In the AFC, you have dogs, and you have guys that have been in the league 4 or 5 years now, get into their heart of it, and it's even like the NFC West, right? You got Patrick Mahomes on it. Justin Herbert has to do something. Getting a new OC, they spent a ton of money on Sean Payton to fix whatever's going on with Russ. And the Raiders are the Raiders, but they'll manage to screw it up and win like 5 or 6 games when they should be winning about 3, so they get Caleb Williamson. It's gonna be feast or famine. Where all of a sudden in the NFC, you might see a team like Seattle that wouldn't even make the 6 games in the AFC, all of a sudden have a winning record and do all that. And so the AFC is where I think that you get that high expectation, and there's only 7 slots. And so, and you probably got about 11 to 12 teams that plan on trying to make the playoffs this year out of 15 in there, or 16.
Brandon, just remember when you write about Geno Smith, he won't write back.
Don't write him off.
They say Seattle's in the best position, man. They love Geno Smith there. Let's stick with Denver for a minute. Think about their situation last year. Think about what Russell Wilson went through, how much he got sacked, how much of ugly, like every single game was probably the worst game up until that moment that he had played. It was a cascade of ugliness and sadness. Is it just Sean Payton that's going to change the culture? It's only Sean? Suddenly Russ isn't
what
washed?
Sean Payton said, just his comments and how it kind of, broke the coaching code, speaking about how Nathaniel Hackett is probably one of the worst coaching jobs in NFL history. So it sounds like Sean Payton is saying Russell Wilson was not the problem. Everything else was the problem.
Which was
can he change the culture?
It was inflammatory what he said.
Right? I don't know if that was a good idea. I think I know what he did. He did it to give your guy a boost. He could do that behind.
He took the pressure. He took the pressure on himself.
You know, and he's gonna eat some crow for that maybe. Russ didn't look like the same guy. Didn't run it. Was off on platform. It didn't throw to the outsides well. He had some struggles and he got exposed. And I think they're going to build an offense around him. So, he just hands it off and throws on 20 throws. Treat him like a rookie, they're going to put shackles on this guy. Right. But you're like, wait, I'm spending $250 for it. Like if he was on his rookie deal, you'd be like, yeah, this works. Cause then I could take all that money and build the team around him. But he's taking up $245 on your cap to basically be shackled. And so they're going to be having to make some real cap casualties. They spent a ton of money on to fix up the offensive line. You're going to see next year where they're going to have to release a lot of defensive players. I'd be surprised if they keep any of those. That's why you saw Bradley Chubb leave. I don't know if they're going to keep Simmons on the safety.
We'll take Bradley Chubb. Thank
contract. Yeah, because the contract doesn't even take effect until next year. So that he's just playing on his Seattle money. And wait till this cap hits. They have to happen for next 2 to 3 years. Yeah, it's weird. It's the general manager should be fired for that contract extension. You didn't need to do it. It was too early. Mm-hmm. You could have waited to see the money was still going to be there. And if you did it, you could have just said, hey, give Peyton a year to get Russ. If he doesn't, he can get off of Russ next year. No, you threw a 4-year $254 on his neck, and now so you had to overpay for Peyton so you can have halfway decent way that in a division that has Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, right? So it's not like he's in the NFC South and he can muster up 9 wins to because Peyton used to do that back in the day. He'd be the Saints. They're in a horrible division sometimes, and he'd win the division because he'd be beating up on the Bucs and the Falcons. And now he's in a harder division. I'd be lucky to win 7-8 wins.
Yeah, and they're going to pay for that for the next few years. It's
so many years.
It's not just this year. It's coming for the next half a decade at least. So, and it's because of bad decisions. Exactly.
I mean, if Patrick Mahomes goes limp in the next 5 years, there's $500 million down the drain. I mean, you got to is that worth the 2 Super Bowls that you won? What if it turns into a back? I mean, no one can ever take that Mark Teixeira contract. No one's ever going to take that contract. You know what I'm saying? It's a ridiculously game-breaking fucking contract that who would take that on? You know what I mean? Then unless you do the Aaron Rodgers where you're traded with $50 million and then you take a $35 million pay cut. Who's going to do that? I mean, that's
but
end of your career shit.
Was a 4-time MVP. Like you put this money in a Russell Wilson guy who's the reason why he never won MVP. That's why he went there was because he felt that they didn't really let him cook, right? So he couldn't get the numbers that he wanted.
Oh, let him cook.
An MVP. So they bring in Hackett. He lets the guy cook himself all the way to 5 wins. He
overcooked his ass.
And then you rewarded him. So right. I only think I can see because they probably try to get off him maybe after next year and take the cap hit and just take that brutal punch in the gut. Some teams have done it before. The old Jamarcus Russell cap hit where you're like, I don't want to get rid of him, but I got it. And have a real thin team for a while, right? Where it's just all rookies. But having him there, and when because you probably need to get a rookie quarterback on a cheap for a couple of years just to incorporate that.
I was going to throw that out there. At what point do you start looking at drafting a quarterback? You know, when that's such a massive deal, would that break his psyche? Would he would think, oh, that kid has no chance? If there's ever a quarterback battle against your $254 million quarterback, there's never going to be a quarterback battle. People just become complacent at that point, right? Then, right? Like it's just like
his contract goes up to 40 to 50 million, and then I'm gonna sit him on the bench while this kid making 1.2 is playing 16 games. You know,
and then what?
He'd be right, and it would. And the worst part about it, you can't release him because then the dead cap space money.
Oh, it's worse than the live cap space money.
You might as well just find something for him to do, like clean the toilets and fucking. Mow the lawn and shit. I have to find odd jobs for to get my 245 at. I'm like, look, we don't need to play quarterback, but sell some tickets. Go out there and just,
bring your pretty wife around. Ciara's got it going on.
At least I'll give that to the Raiders. They got rid of Carr, which I thought was a horrible way of doing it, because they could have traded him. They didn't. They let him walk out for nothing, and so you lose the draft capital there, and then you end up picking up a cheap Jimmy G. But since it's really on a 2-year deal, the goal is be horribly so you can get Caleb Williamson next year. Because you definitely need a quarterback in there. But hopefully Josh McDaniels is fired by then.
Jimmy G is already throwing more interceptions than TDs. I think he's got more interceptions than complete passes. He's hurt again. He's not in training camp again. And who's the backup?
I saw that.
Brian Hoyer.
Brian Hoyer, sir. Only Patriots people. 13
man doesn't die.
Former Patriots on the Las Vegas Raiders roster. I hate that when a coach comes over, especially Patriot guys. They come over to your team and they just Patriot coaches, Patriot players. They get rid of good players. They're bringing more Patriot players until the Patriot guy gets fired and they have to re-scratch.
I resent that, and we're going to talk to Dan Ron because his wife is a Patriots fan, but I resent that because I'm the Miami 49ers. So.
No, I find it fascinating, like when you look at an NFL roster, just how much like the top 5 or 6 guys make on the cap versus all the other guys, how little they make. So when we talk about these rookie contracts and just the flexibility that affords you, because like just even looking at the Denver Broncos, right? Russell Wilson has the highest cap hit, Cortland Sutton, Justin Simmons, Garrett Bowles. You get down like 7th, 8th on the list, and they're only making $3-4 million. It's a far cry from what they're paying their top 5, 6, 7 guys. It's very interesting. But you say, can you move on from a quarterback making a lot of money? Well, I don't know how much money Matt Flynn got from Seattle when Russell Wilson got there, but they realized Russell was a better quarterback, and they moved on from Matt Flynn. You can move on from quarterbacks, but I just think Russell Wilson's not a quarterback you're going to move on from. The only way I can see that is if they are bad enough to possibly draft one of these top 2 or 3 projected picks coming up next year. Otherwise, I think you stick with Russell Wilson and you see what he can get you the next couple of years.
I feel like
but if I believe like that Flynn contract wasn't a huge signing bonus with a ton of guaranteed on the back end, right? So you do get these inflated things where it's like 7 years, 120 million, but the only thing that's guaranteed
dead cap.
So I don't know how much but the 34-year-old Russell Wilson, he almost looks like, you remember when like Donovan McNabb went to the Skins and it was like, oh man. He's gonna do something over there because he was just playing with the Eagles, right? And he was throwing balls at their feet and stuff like that. They couldn't wait to bench him. I forgot who they benched him for. And then he goes to the Vikings. He gets benched again, and then he's out of the league, right? It seems like he's kind of going that Donovan McNabb route. Really good in the early part of his career, Super Bowl, things like that. And then when it falls off because the accuracy was never there, you didn't build up on your skill level. You're pretty much out of the league by 35.
Russell Wilson will be 35 this year and playing on a $8 million base salary, but his cap hit $22 million. That moves up to $35 million next season, $55 million when he's 37 years old, playing in 2025. And then the opt-out after 2026, that's a 4-year 161. His dead cap would be $31 million if they cut him after 2025. So that's probably where you'll see a restructure. He'll be 37 years old, so if Russell Wilson's one of these quarterbacks, much like a Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers that plays into their late 30s, possibly early 40s, that's where you'll see that restructure happen, whether it's with Denver or maybe he latches on with the third team to the latter half of his career. But I know we kind of want to talk about a little bit about training camp injuries as well. Obviously a big one in Cincinnati, but you got to feel for a guy like Tim Patrick with the Denver Broncos. Tears an ACL in training camp a year ago. Almost a year later, tears an Achilles. missing his second straight season. I don't know how much a Tim Patrick could impact a Russell Wilson in Denver, but obviously it wouldn't hurt to have Tim Patrick out there. So that's an injury out of Broncos camp that I don't think anybody in Broncos country wanted to see.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that's terrible. Kind of remind me of that the Bears used to have a guy, Kevin Wilson, I think it was, and he got injured, and then they finally bring him back, and he gets injured again or something. And usually, I think 2 years in a row, it sounds like his career might be on his last leg.
Kevin White out of West Virginia, maybe?
Kevin White, yeah, and he was like, "Hey, Kevin White's looking good at camp," and then it's like out for another year. And it's like, oh man, he just never came back. 2 knee surgeries, tough. And, I'd have to see how he.
It looks like so far we're looking at full-fledged camps. We've already seen the likes of Joe Burrow go down with a calf strain. Then the Colts also saw
Zach Moss broken arm. I think.
Exactly, Zach Moss. That was a big hit because they were banking on Zach Moss. And of course, the messy situations with
real quick, didn't the guy? So Zach Moss ends up getting traded for Hines, but Hines gets hurt too for the year too for Buffalo, doesn't he? So they really kind of cancel each other out. He gets hurt doing jet skiing, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, he was on a jet ski, not even moving, and someone smashed into his knee or something.
That's what it was. Oh, I thought he flipped it or something. I just heard
no, he didn't flip his jet ski. He was
sounds
just
pretty fishy.
on his jet ski.
He was parked. Oh, parked car injury. Oh man,
is his career sunk?
Oh man, that's a tough blow.
Yeah, parked car. I wasn't even moving it.
I ain't even on it. Somebody ran into me.
Yep.
Out for the year.
So we're looking at Jeff Okudah from the Falcons, cornerback. His leg is out, so he's looking at. I don't know how long that's going to be, but it looks like Twitter says his ankle determines severity of the injuries is August 4th, just yesterday. And then we're looking at Jimmy Garoppolo's back on. Yep, Jimmy Garoppolo's back on it. He left practice on the 2nd, which means he misses more training camp days to continue healing from his surgery from his left foot. So he came back too fast. So something's going on with the training camp people, the training team, to be more specific.
He'll be out for the year by Halloween.
Right.
Bet it here.
Oh God, who's going to start? Are you going to start the season with Brian Hoyer? You might as well just stop. Just suck.
Well, when you put the most fragile guy behind the worst offensive line, it smells like out for the year by Halloween.
Absolutely.
It's so. I'm no math major, but that adds up to bad news.
We got Cooper Kupp had to leave practice on August 1st, so more days. It's 3 days off there with a hamstring injury. We have Matthew Stafford missed significant time in the season due to a bruised spinal cord. And then we have a little bit of video here from Cooper Kupp getting off the field. That's how it happened. It didn't. It was such a horrible throw with no chance of catching it. Wow.
But he might be back for week 1, right? I heard. So he's just going to miss camp. So, and then we're going to play him. And then McVay doesn't play any of the starters in the preseason anyway. So
smart. Look at all the people going down just on camp. We got Burrow, of course. Let's watch the play that he was injured on. If you can see it. So not sure. He was literally scrambling to the right, and he went down with he was hopping on one leg.
Yeah, the right cap. He already had it wrapped up too. So.
Yeah, it had the black wrap there, but it looks like he rolled out and he hit it a little wrong. But that looks like he's going to be back for week 1, correct?
It's interesting because a calf injury with a quarterback, right? We're talking about, can he stand in the pocket? Can he deliver the ball even with a little bit of tightness? The question is mobility. Is that a concern? And then you also go into and I think this is, as a Cowboys fan, the conversation we had when we had the Cooper Rush era, when Dak Prescott was coming back, would you want to start a 90% Joe Burrow week 1 or a 100% Joe Burrow week 2? That's where the questions come in. But obviously Joe Burrow is your guy. He's your bell cow. He's the guy you want in there week 1.
He's your guy.
If you feel you can protect them, that's going to be the key. If they feel that line can hold them up, if that line's shaky, then you don't pull it. But if it's like, hey, look we got a good, solid guys, and he can get the ball out, but he holds the ball sometimes too. That's kind of scary. And so,
he has supreme confidence that he can put it in a window that nobody else
Yeah.
can. He's got the Favre complex. So like when you have that, you hold on to the ball forever to see what develops. Seriously. And,
Your QB2 at Trevor Simeon right now is QB2 in Cincinnati.
Ooh.
oh, you're in trouble.
Nah, just start Joe Burrow. Then.
Just start Joe in a wheelchair.
Trevor, give you that out. Yeah.
Give him the Marino treatment. Just put him out there on 2 bum hips
And that division's gonna be tight, and that could be that could be the difference if you win the division or wild card or something like that. And so, who they start the season out with against Baltimore or the Browns? Right?
Cleveland, yeah. Cleveland, then Baltimore, and then they're home against the Rams. Then they travel to Tennessee and Arizona. Then they get Seattle before their Week 7 bye. So 2 division games to start the season.
Putting that left tackle against Myles Garrett and then he can't move, right? So,
right. I mean, you start off with this is the worst time to get injured as a Cincinnati quarterbacks, having to start off with that monster coming at you. Literally, top 100. I believe he came in the top 10 in the top 100 players at this moment,
right.
and that's picked by their peers and stuff like that. So, moving on, Jaguars and wide receiver Calvin Ridley, like we mentioned earlier. So sorry.
He just switched his shoes. He'll be fine.
He's fine. He's going to be fine.
He's got new shoes. That's going to take care of it.
Wrong Florida Heat.
That's it.
Yeah, he'll be fine, dude. He's just getting some salt water.
If you're gonna hurt a body part, at least you have 9 others to deal with.
That's right.
Well, until you like Deion Sanders, who's getting his toes cut off because of turf toe, right? And so I don't want to let it linger.
That's true.
But as long as it's soft tissue, you don't mind a little bit, because you can always come back that through. It's like I don't need the word torn and broken. Those are words I don't want to hear, right? And so I'm always good with. They're literally playing none of my guys for and if my guy gets hurt and they're like, oh, he's out for training camp, I'm like, okay, keep him out for training camp. I don't want to see him in there anyways, right? Like,
right.
Make sure he plays week 1. I would like to see how good the Jags can be this year. It's gonna be a fun year for you guys, man.
Let's hope.
It is.
We're jinxing it right now. As long
talking about it too damn much.
As long as I don't go to any games, we should be all right.
Talking about too that much. Moving on, as Danrod said, as Danrod was so gracious to bring up, that's right. Tim Patrick with his leg is out. Broncos head coach confirmed today that wide receiver Tim Patrick tore his Achilles.
Ooh, yeah, done. Yeah. It was the ACL last year and it's the Achilles this year, right?
Yeah. So it's one leg, one leg, and then the other. So yeah, it might be not only time to call it quits for the season. I'm not sure how good you have to be Josh Gordon to be, built like that guy to be able to come back from those crazy injuries.
They might release him and he might have to try again in training camp in another team. I just can't see the Broncos.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate as hell, but that's the way that works. Yeah. And then they do have Jerry Jeudy and Marvin Mims and Brandon Johnson and Marcus Callaway and Lil Jordan Humphrey. And they're all going to be backing him up. I don't know about that. That's a huge blow.
Yeah.
Lil Jordan, same height as Cortland Sutton, by the way, the tallest receiver listed on the depth chart.
Yeah, which is rough
for Lil Jordan.
Jerry Judy's your guy, though. Jerry Judy, that's a lot of
very disappointing. Jerry Judy, I'm very disappointing career. Came out with a lot of hype. And a lot of those Alabama receivers turned to be something. And, whether it's Devontae Smith or Mike Cooper or a lot of other guys. And Jerry Judy's been it's terrible route running, which somebody pretty good in college. They hit or miss on a lot of balls, man. That doesn't get the separation you would think he does. Unfortunately, he's their number 1 now. But I'm thinking he's had a very underwhelming career. I don't know what his stats were last year, but and that would probably pertain to Russ. But you thought you were getting game changer kind of a guy, right? You're like, oh man, Judy. You got to remember, like he got drafted like 12 or 13, higher than guys like Justin Jefferson and stuff like that. So
I mean that alone is criminal. The fact that Justin Jefferson was taken. Justin Jefferson.
What's criminal is they took Henry Ruggs ahead of all of them, but that turned out to be worse.
That was literally criminal.
Yeah, so that's scarier on that. But
yeah, and that happened right in our backyard, man. I can tell you that I live in the southwest of Las Vegas, and I know exactly the streets that happened on. And there's a little mural for I think her name is Tina and Max, the dog, which is horrible, horrible. Yeah,
and the worst part, he was actually becoming a player. Like he was actually kind of figuring it out, getting some snaps, getting some carries, and so then it went all down the drain. So, I want to see what they do with Peyton's offense to make it so they can get some production out of that. I guess just run Javonte Williams into the ground, I assume, right? Like,
of course.
They didn't really throw to and Russ doesn't really throw to the tight end all that much. So we'll see how that works out.
Okay. Well,
last season, Russell Wilson only 16 total touchdown passes. Very underwhelming, 11 picks. Their receivers, Jerry Jeudy did lead the team, 67 catches at 972 yards. No 1,000-yard receiver on the Broncos last year. 6 touchdowns for Jerry Jeudy. Cortland Sutton, 15 games played, 2 touchdowns. And then the tight end, they don't really throw to 10 games. Is it Dulcich? 33 receptions in 10 games, 2 touchdowns. He was kind of coming on towards the end of the season last year, so we'll see if maybe Greg Dulcich, the second-year man out of UCLA, can be that Luke Wilson-esque type with that long flowing hair now for the Denver Broncos.
Oh, man. Yeah. We haven't talked about the NFC, though, and so getting into that conference, right, and seeing
let's talk about that, then we'll get into Super Bowl predictions.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the NFC, obviously the AFC, all the heavy hitters are in the AFC. How many teams from the NFC realistically do we think, and I am a biased Cowboys fan, so I'll start this by saying that, have a chance to make the Super Bowl in the NFC? Who are the contenders of the NFC? In the AFC, I think we can discuss. There's probably a lot more contenders coming to the AFC. In the NFC, I can only see, obviously every team has a chance, but are there really only 3-4 teams that we realistically think could make the Super Bowl?
I know only one will make it.
Yeah. Well, you don't know.
I don't know which one, but only one will.
Well, I can tell you that the 49ers for me is probably the top of the list.
But they have the biggest quarterback question mark of all the teams that are contenders. That's the one thing that scares me with the 49ers.
They do, and they traded away their probably the little bit of stability they had. But Brock Purdy was such a productive player, and he was so breakout that it was almost a no-brainer.
They're almost quarterback, but they're the one thing that they could make that work with that. Like, they don't need to start quarterback. That thing's more system driven than anything. So
that NFC title game proved they don't need a quarterback at all.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. You can't have Josh Johnson out there. That's a little stretch. But at least they packed it more with Sam Darnold. So now they got 3 guys. They're like, look at, we're overboard on it. I'd like to see. I think that the key is going to be is the NFC North, right? And the reason I say that is because I think you got the 2 teams that you want from the NFC East. You have the Niners going out of the West. I think that's pretty much it. I don't know if there's another team really over there. I think the Rams are in flux. The Cardinals are down, and Kyler Murray's not being there. It's going to be. Do you get like a 12-4 Vikings team? Do you get a 13-3 Lions team that is going to have this inflated win-loss record? We may not, but we won't consider them contenders because they're going to come into the season with not that kind of hype. So. I think that's going to be, or even, Jordan Love does something with the Packers. Somebody's going to win that division with a high record, and nobody will consider them a playoff or a Super Bowl contender, but they'll probably be in the mix as well. So I say 4 teams because I don't think anybody at the NFC South is going to do anything. They're just too much in transition. All 4 of those teams are starting either 1-year or 2-year quarterbacks.
So to me, I mean, the 49ers are probably going to. So who do we think are going to win the divisions? For me, the NFC West is the 49ers to win with that quarterback question. The Cardinals are completely in flux. The Seahawks, I would predict that they would probably be in second. Usually when a team excels the way they did last year, I don't expect them to bring the Heat back-to-back seasons like that. That's very hard to do. So I would say that the top of the heap will probably be 49ers for me. What do you think about the NFC West?
I love the States. I think you give him a comparable Derek Carr. I always thought Derek Carr was really good. You get him with those weapons. that division, they should win 11 games and own it. Desmond Ritter's terrible. I still think,
So you're ready to anoint the Saints with like just a bit above average Derek Carr. Like he's not the savior.
And
He's not like
Cam Jordan being a Saint for life.
right.
Yeah, but they had weapons there, that they were.
Keep in mind, Alvin Kamara suspended first 3 games of the season.
Thank you. Brand new quarterback. As much as invested as he is, he wasn't the savior in the Raiders. That's why he's gone.
But they do have Jamal Williams.
Yeah, but he didn't play defense. And so they give these win-loss records to quarterbacks, and it's like it's not like basketball where he can go out there and block a shot. He scores a touchdown. They blow 3 17-point leads. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's the master of all masters, but if Dennis Allen can just give him comparable defense, he can win you a 24 to 27 game. Like they have enough talent on there. They have. Hopefully you get some time out of Michael Thomas. You got Chris Olave who had a good breakout year. They got some weapons on it. And the division's so bad, as long as you beat Baker Mayfield and Desmond Ritter and a very young Bryce
Young
over there in Panthers. Yeah, Bryce Young. You should own it. You should own the division. You're a man amongst boys.
Agreed. That's such a shakeup with the Buccaneers losing Tom Brady because now they're just automatically not contenders. And then the Panthers have a rookie quarterback, right? And the Saints have a brand new quarterback, first time playing in the NFC, just all new like looks and feels there. I don't know. I would probably say the Saints.
It was weird that the Buccaneers didn't go get themselves a veteran quarterback. They
got Baker Mayfield.
It's a veteran quarterback.
I actually think he'll do better than most people think he will.
Baker Mayfield?
I actually do.
What's that bar?
Well, again,
Baker Mayfield will throw one touchdown. I think he'll do better than most people.
But here's the thing. I think he might be like Marcus Mariota, where they bring him in, and then by week 7, they're like, "Hey, we got to bench this guy to see what we got with Kyle Trask." And whether he's good or not, is the team's going nowhere. And I wouldn't be surprised if they start selling their players off during the trade deadline and see if they could get a 2nd or 3rd round for Michael Evans or get a 5th round for a guy, and then fire Todd Bowles by the end of the year.
We have 2 recent examples of quarterbacks joining the NFC South on their first year. We have Marcus Mariota with the Atlanta Falcons, and we have Tom Brady with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So really, it's one way or the other. It's Super Bowl or bust. There's no in between.
All right.
Super Bowl or kicked out of the league.
So
it's always who you get benched for. Like that Ritter kid looked like he was lost. I don't know what. Maybe if he could surprise or something, maybe he's better than I thought he was. I did watch him in Cincinnati. But he showed no signs or flashes that he picked up anything to do with the NFL. It looked too fast for him. He had a hard time just completing anything over 7 yards. I guess they're just going to run B.J. Robinson into the ground and hope to God they can muster up some, 5-6 wins and stuff. And who knows? They might be in the Caleb Williamson draft if it goes wrong.
Yeah. Just keeping with the Saints. Obviously, Jimmy Graham re-signed with the Saints. Does Jimmy Graham have anything left? What can he bring to the Saints? And also the ultimate wild card that they always have, Taysom Hill. Where does Taysom Hill factor in to the Saints?
Hopefully
offense?
Nowhere. Hopefully like as a tight end. You should not be taking your starting quarterback off the field. So maybe a gimmick play now and then to catch someone off guard, but for the most part, he's gonna have to just play like a weird H-back tight end. They still got some players on defense too. So they when you don't have Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston, who had a terrible year, and Taysom Hill, and they still almost won like 6-7 games, I think Derek Carr get them up to about 10-11. They won't be a Super Bowl contender, but they'll be a good division winner, and who knows what they'll do in the playoffs.
Yeah, that is my pick for
they'll host a playoff game
for the NFC South. What about you, Dave? What are you picking for the NFC South? And Dan Ron?
For absolutely no reason, the Falcons. Let's be real.
Don't got one in there.
Any team that comes out of the NFC South is, it's like our AFC South. They're not good teams. So you're not going to have a run from any of these teams. All 4 of them are not not one of the elites, and they're not going to be this year. They're gonna nobody's gonna care, and so it really doesn't matter. So Falcons, Dan Rod.
For similar logic to you, I'm just going to throw a gamble on the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Brand new cobbled together offense. You got Adam Thielen's there, DJ Chark Jr. is there, Hayden Hurst is there, obviously Bryce Young, Miles Sanders. So they just took a collection of pieces from other teams, put them together to get this offense. And if I'm not mistaken, the Panthers had a pretty good defense last year.
They did.
So we'll see if they can get anything offensively. And of course, I got to cheer for a fellow Canadian, Chuba Hubbard, as the second running back on that depth chart right now.
Oh my gosh, Von.
There you go.
Yeah.
We got Von Bell. Yep.
I
DJ
like
Chark.
that. You know, they're. I think they're going to be insane. I think they're going to be like, you know, there's always one team, you know, because rarely do you ever get super separation, right? Where you're just like, you know, you won the thing by Thanksgiving. Usually, there's always another team that kind of follows you into December, and I think the Panthers will be right there with the Saints. But there's always there's that worst of first team. There's that team that like nobody thinks is going to do something and just win some, you know, and so. Maybe this division is the division that gives it to you. That's why I thought maybe the Falcons, where it's like you get these, but I don't know, man. Arthur Smith runs, you know, not running a good offense over there. It just seems like
I think the Panthers came second in the division last year to Tampa Bay, so they don't have the most favorable of the schedules. But I don't know. Maybe we'll see something out of Bryce Young. Throw my hat in the ring for the Carolina Panthers.
They also have, like you said, the red rifle, so they're ready to go with the red rifle. Okay, so and as I said, I would take the Saints in that just because of overall team completeness, and then adding, even though I'm not a big Derek Hart fan, I like the kid's moxie, but overall I'd probably say that just because of the overall already team that they had built, but Alvin Kamara might throw a wrench in all that. So let's move to the NFC North. The Bears, Lions, Packers, and Vikings. Big dog. I know who you like.
I bleed the purple. But I don't feel good about it. I ain't gonna lie to you. The way we have been getting rid of players because we're in salary cap hell. This is kind of the year where because this is we follow. I think we're gonna follow a 13-3 season by a 9-8 season. You know, it seems like that. It seems like this is the Lions' year to get their first division wins.
Can I point out that the Lions have never won the NFC North? Not since it's been the NFC North. They won the NFC Central way back in. Somebody look up the exact year, but they've never won the NFC North.
Long time.
Is this their year to actually win the NFC North?
I think the Lions are too hyped. That's the problem with the Lions. They get too much love. Dan Campbell wants to bring an actual lion onto the team.
Yeah,
I can see that. Eat them at the kneecaps. Taking their kneecaps out. This is the best team they've ever had, complete front to back, mixed in with this is the worst the division's ever had. So they've always had to deal with either a Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers Packer, and then either a really good Bears defense or a Vikings offense, and then they would always finish last. Yep. And now you don't have any of those. Yeah, the Bears defense is down. Vikings offense, we who knows? We got Justin Jefferson, but we got rid of Dalvin Cook. We got rid of Thielen. So there's a lot of pieces that need to put in there. And the defense is terrible for the Vikings. Packers don't have their quarterback, or if they do, they're trying him out. So if there's any damn year in life that the Lions would division, it would have to be this one. You know, and if they don't win it this one, they'll probably never win it in my lifetime. So I'm going to go with the Lions to do it just because I can't. Everything's lined up for them to take this division finally, get that beautiful 12-4 record. It almost reminds me of the best year they had, which was 1991 with I want to say Rodney Peete or Scott Mitchell. They go to the NFC Championship game versus Skins. They ended up in that game, but they beat Dallas in the playoffs. And it kind of is like this is kind of their year that they can finally get some. Even the Stafford years, they were always wild card 9-7, and when they did make the playoffs twice. This is like they're going to own. They should own this division. They should be the big dogs eating.
NFC Central wins for the Lions 1983, 1991, and the last time 1993, Dave.
There you go.
93, yeah. But they lose to the Packers in the playoffs right after that. That's the odd thing, though. They end up winning the division. They play the Packers in the first wild card game and then they lose to them right in Detroit.
So we got the old good old Minnesota Vikings. I'm sorry if I missed something. Did y'all go on to pick yours?
I don't know who I want to pick in this division. I like the Lions. I still think the Vikings, coming off of, was it 13-4, or were they 14-3 last year? These 17 games, I never know
With
anymore.
with Dalvin Cook.
So
a lot of close games.
Yeah,
I understand that.
Yeah, and that usually regresses to the means a lot, where you end up losing some of those this time around.
Justin Jefferson's an absolute manimal. He's incredible, and that's with Kirk Cousins throwing the ball, which is, I mean, imagine, what if you had a real gunslinger? In my opinion,
there's not many of them out there these days. But what scares me is the defense side of the ball. You bring in Brian Flores to run. He runs a tight press man gap. We ain't got the corners for that. We ain't got Xavier Howard. We don't know, and he's just gonna jam this system down on these rookies that are gonna get their asses handed to them. The back end of the safeties aren't there. Harrison Smith's on his last leg. Seen Lewis, who we drafted with the first draft pick overall safety. He's coming off an injury. I'm scared that he's going to try to put the square peg in a round hole, and it's going to take 2 years to flip that defense to see what he wants into it, right?
Okay,
So
you talked me out of it. Then I'll take the Green Bay Packers.
Well, there you go.
Kendricks and stuff like that. The linebacker core seems to be a little soft. We end up getting rid of Zadarius Smith, who was one of our leading sack guys. Darnell Hunter was about to walk out until we re-signed him. So I want to see what this defense looks like. If you're just telling me Brian Flores is going to implement some scheme that can get everybody where they need to be and it's going to be candy, great. If you're looking at the roster of the actual defense, it smells like 8 losses easy.
I think you're reading too much into it. And here's what I'll say about Detroit, because Detroit had an opportunity to make the playoffs last year, a really good opportunity. Everybody's rooting for them. They're going to have a similar year this year, but they're still Detroit. They're not going to do it. Minnesota Vikings win that division.
You can polish a turd, but still a turd underneath, right?
You know what? Minnesota knows how to win the division. Detroit's been Detroit for so long. I don't see, I don't think they're that good to change it. I think Minnesota wins that division and then loses in the playoffs like they also know how to do. No offense.
Did we talk about the
No, that's true. They're not privy to Super Bowl things. I just think that you're right. The Lions are the Lions. I just think the division kind of went down.
You're right.
This is the worst I've ever seen the NFC North ever.
I agree.
They've usually had a guy in there. They've had a guy here. I've never seen it just lower into to this mount where it's like Jordan Love, Justin Fields, and Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff are your starting quarterbacks in that division.
How are we feeling about Love? Jordan Love he's been sitting. He had the Aaron Rodgers treatment, right? He sat for 3 years. He sat 3 full years.
I believe so.
He did. And but even Aaron Rodgers, his first year starting, only went 6-10, right? So they don't make playoffs in the second year. So it's a big. Even if he's good, they might only get 6-7 wins, right? So I don't know that roster. Christian Watson kind of came on a little bit late. We'll see if it might be a surprise though. Who knows, right? They could be the division so bad they could be around the same thing, 9-8 with us too, kind of battling for second and third place. The wild card is what we get from Justin Fields and the Bears, right? That's going to be seeing.
And speaking of those Bears, Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers open up in Chicago week 1 against those Bears. Green Bay's first 5 weeks, not necessarily the who's who of the NFL. Chicago, Atlanta, New Orleans, Detroit at home, which would be interesting. Vegas, so your Vegas Raiders out there on a Monday night, and then they go into a week 6 bye. So the first 5 games for Green Bay could really tell the tale of how this season is going to go. They could be 0-5, they could be 5-0, they could be 3-2, 2-3, they could be 0-5 for all we know.
And amazing pickup. I was just reading that about the Bears. Yannick Ngakoue, happy to join the Bears after searching for a contender. He deserves all the money in the whole world. He's invaluable.
4th team in 4 years for that guy, right? If I'm not wrong.
He just looked around and said, "Who's the one quarterback I don't want to chase around?" And that was just
exactly.
He's like, I might as well.
Well, my thing with Ngakoue is why does Ngakoue never play 2 years with the same team? They don't. Right. They never try to extend him. And I'm not saying he plays bad, but the Vikings have had him. The Colts have had him. I want to say Texas had him. Like he hops around, and I guarantee this Bears deal is a 1 year deal. I don't see he'll be on the Bears in 2024.
1 year, 1 year, 10.5. That's correct. 1 year, 10.5.
Yeah, like he's it's true mercenary. He's making Sue look like a
Right,
So,
like a family man.
yeah, right. So it's weird how he, for a pass rusher that does really good production, he gets you about almost close to 8-9 sacks a year. Nobody ever wants to extend him. You know,
maybe he's got the league figured out. Maybe it's better to be better to be a gun for hire. It's better to make $10.5 million per year every year. So far, he's probably banked about $45 million. You know, is that a better way to go? You don't really have to assimilate. You don't have to drink the Kool-Aid. You don't have to really do anything. It's like, tell me where to stand. Where do I shoot the gap? I kill quarterback.
No,
you pay
they don't
me.
like that. They because these players fight and cry every time they get franchise tagged. They want extended contracts. They want some type of
Stability.
security. They want some salary bonus in it. So if he's getting cut like this, it's because in the NFL, if you're a free agent, you're a free agent for a reason. Either they can't afford you because you're a cap casualty, or they don't want you. Because if the teams hold so much control over these players that they can strangle your whole career to there's nothing left. And so they usually extend you when you're halfway decent, or even before they think you're good. And so you don't really ever get to even test free agency until they're done with you. And then they go, hey, go try it. You know.
Gotcha. I'm going to take the Lions here. I believe that they're only going to get better. I disagree with Dave a little bit as far as them still being the Lions. They got to get better at one point. They do have a good coach. They have stability. Finally, they look great on defense, and they actually have a good quarterback. No matter what they say, and I know that was jarring to see that trade happen between the Lions and the Rams, but that kind of worked out in the end for the Lions. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Lions.
Both teams. One team got a Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
And they, so that worked out for them, and the other team ended up getting off a bad contract, picking up some first-round draft picks, and getting some stability at the position, even after the trade, right? And so it's one of those rare win-wins. The Lions are looking good now, where the Rams got the early victory, but it definitely worked out well. I think the Lions actually, this should be their year. But you're right. I kind of agree with both Dave. The Lions are the Lions sometimes, and it's tough, man. They do some Lion stuff, man, where it's like they have the game won, but then he wants to go for the fourth and then gives the ball back to him. Like, they find a way to lose games, and you go, that's why they're the Loins,
The Loins.
That scare me, because they do. They'll step on the rake. They'll do their own dumb shit. They hit themselves in the head. So, but I think that if they don't make it with the high expectations, the division's so down, then you might as well fire everybody and scrap it, because if they can't win it now, what are they going to do when better quarterbacks and players do get in the division?
Right. That's a great point. All right, moving on to the NFC East. We all love it. It's not the NFC least. It's the NFC East, and not anymore. They got some great teams in there. And before we do that, in honor of Dan Rod, I wanted to share something, and I wanted to go to this here, and I wanted to have a quick conversation about this. What's going on here? Dak Prescott addresses being called a bitch by teammates during practice.
I don't know. I have not seen this, but maybe he was called a bitch by teammates and he had to address it.
Well, this apparently went a little viral.
What was the context? Maybe they're like, that's my bitch right there.
That's my bitch.
They're proud of him.
Let's take a quick look at it. You my bitch, boo.
He was getting chippy with Trayvon Diggs, I guess. And that's
exactly right. So let's take a quick look. Oh, come on.
That's done.
Go, Dak! Go, Dak! Go, Dak! That's in a box! That's in a box! That's in a box! Box!
I don't understand a word they said.
Yeah, well,
they called him a bitch.
Slow news. That is slow news in the NFL, and the Cowboys are clickbait easy.
Exactly.
32 teams could have called their quarterback a bitch. Only the Dallas Cowboys would make the news.
That was my point, and my point is that it's always hard knocks for the Dallas Cowboys.
Why do the Cowboys have training camp in Oxnard, California? Why are they one of the only teams that does not have training camp near their home?
But they have a $5 billion stadium or whatever.
Which is
crazy.
And they ended up talking facility.
Yeah,
they did talk to Dak about it, and he ended up saying that he starts the shit. in the locker room and stuff like that, and he encourages these guys to go back at him, and so he was probably calling Trayvon some shit, and then you only heard the back end where Trayvon
of course
on the bitch, but he grinds, he starts the shit all the time, so he's a big shit talker.
You don't see the part where Dak put up a post in Trayvon Diggs' locker that said he had gave up the most yards in the NFL last year, right? Dak just pinned that up in his locker.
Yo,
there you go. That sounds about right.
Well, I showed that because we're going into the NFC East. I showed that, but mostly I wanted to just a little bit of troll on a Cowboys fan, maybe stir some shit, maybe one of many weeks that we get to do that. That's all. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of Dolphins shit, so that's totally fine. That was a little rib. But let's go back to the standings and let's talk about who we like for the NFC East, and then we can wrap it up and we can pick it up next week.
Sounds good.
I'll just start by saying this. Obviously, biased Cowboys fan. I love picking my Cowboys, but history is on my side here because for the last 18 years, no team in the NFC East has repeated as division winner. Now, does that mean this is the year that someone's going to repeat, or is this going to be the 19th straight year no one repeats? If you remember, the Eagles won the division last year, so I'm saying we go 19 straight years, no repeat, and I'll take the Cowboys to win the division this year.
Cowboys to win the division.
Surprise, surprise.
You had me there in the first half. I thought you were not going to go with them, and then you went with them. You had me there. All right. So
the Eagles were the last team to repeat. They won 4 straight years between 2001 and 2004.
The McNabb years.
The McNabb years.
The best years of their lives.
I would say the Cowboys too, right? Just because, but I do say is I think the Giants finished last. I think Washington. I think Ron Rivera gets some musters up like 6, 7, 8 wins. Like they'll be surprisingly fighting. Okay, I don't know how Hal will do, but Rivera's not a bad coach. He can coach guys up.
Did Philadelphia lose both their coordinators after the Super Bowl, right?
They did. Went to the Cardinals.
Gannon and Steichen, was it?
Yeah.
Gannon was no loss. Is he the head coach now?
Yeah, the Cardinals.
Cardinals. What happened? I mean, I don't want to see the thing, but like, it's another. Maybe next week we can talk about the precipitous fall of Cliff Kingsbury and him forever tied to Kyler Murray. That's going to be fun.
All right.
Josh Rosen.
For sure. And Josh Rosen, chosen Rosen. I had a hand in that too. We picked him up. The Dolphins picked him up, and I was like, "Oh, we just paid a 2nd-round pick. Flores is a good, I was trying to tell Brandon. I think I was at your house, Brandon, and we were watching football. I was like, "Hey, chosen Rosen, what a cool backup pick." You were totally right. I was an idiot. I was making absolute.
Very rarely do 1st-round draft picks or even quarterbacks. Very rarely when the first team's done with them and they suck, and they rarely go to another team and succeed. So we think in our heads like it's basketball, and they go, "Hey, man, he's on his 4th team and he's an all-star." It's suddenly when quarterbacks usually, not other positions, but definitely quarterbacks. Like if he's on his when he goes to his 2nd and 3rd team, they're pretty much done.
Yeah, it's it's
Baker Mayfield. He thought, Baker Mayfield in Carolina will do something. They're done. Marcus Mariota goes over, done. One thing, you give him a second chance, thinking you're going to get something from him, and 8 out of 10 times, you're going to cut him just as fast as you got him.
So why is Derek Carr going to succeed with that logic?
Because he's that 9th out of 10, and Ryan Tannehill's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, no, you're right. Those are the exceptions, right? And usually it's I would say this though, if it's a veteran, like that's a different thing. Like you played 5 or 6 years. I'm talking like the team's getting rid of you in your rookie contract, kind of a thing. Right?
Oh
like
yeah, Jamarcus Russell.
Yeah, and then they pick you up and they think they can trade you, right? Like it's different if you're a kind of thing on that nature. But if you're like, once we get Sam Darnold to our team, he'll be better over here.
He'll save us.
That's where I would say. So the rookie thing is like, I mean, in that kind of aspect, where if he flames out and you're not even going to extend like his rookie contract, he's not going to go to another team and then be a killer.
All pro, right?
Tannehill is one of the
world beater,
right? You're right about that.
Noted.
But I thought Tannehill did okay in Miami. I never felt that he had his moments. I think Gase ran that team to the ground.
No, the problem is Gase. We can go into. We should just do an afternoon talk just about what we hate about our team's histories.
Oh man, I got
so who do you like in the NFC East to take it? Do you say the Cowboys as well?
I'm going Cowboys. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, and Brandon, I agree. Also, the Giants will be last in that division. They went, for whatever reason, kind of under the radar all the way into the playoffs last year. They were not that good a team, and they're even worse coming into this year. But it's Philadelphia's to lose. It's Philadelphia's to lose. I'm going the Eagles. Eagles to win that division. Dallas will bring it close like they always do. And I would pick the Cowboys in the playoffs as a wild card, but they won't win the division. It's the Philadelphia Eagles.
How are we feeling about Danny Dimes as a franchise quarterback going
Terrible
forward?
contract. Terrible contract. He reminds me of, and you remember this, Dave, Blake Bortles. Like, finally gets into an AFC Championship game, and they can't run to give him a contract extension, and then a year later they can't wait to get him the fuck out of there, right? And so, but the whole time of Blake Bortles' career, he was terrible, kind of, or very mediocre, and he gets one good year, right, where everything came together, the defense, the running game, and they managed to be 13-3, and they really take a nice run in the AFC. Actually had the lead against the Patriots, and then they felt they had to bring him back, you know. And so that's what I always think of, like, he was who he was for the first 4 years. He had 1 year, and I probably would have franchise tagged him to see if he could do it another year. But they jacked him for 4 years, and the first 2 years are like, what's it, like $60 million for the first 2 years, something like that. So it's like he's almost getting $40 million a year. Then they can cut him after the second year, so it's not that hard of a contract. But for the first 2 years, they're stuck with him this year and next year.
That's why the draft is so crucial, man. The draft is crucial for you to hit on.
I say it again. The two people who get wins and losses for football are the quarterbacks and the coaches, and it's an odd thing because they don't. When you take these guys away from stuff like you're going to take Saquon Barkley away from Danny Dimes, you're going to take all this stuff away because when the cap hits, and then you start losing, and it's like, yeah, well, the only reason he was winning was because you were able to kind of take a last place schedule, new coach, no expectations. They won some last minute games at the end. And he only threw 15, 17 touchdowns. Like, they're going to be terrible.
And Dan Rod was totally right when he was talking about the parity in the league, because that's how you build it. You take the last place schedule, you get some magic happening with some chemistry, like some magic dust in the team, and then boom, it can. That's why it can happen any year for any team. Because
to take this, sorry, go ahead.
I was done.
I was going to say, to take this full circle, will Daniel Jones be the footnote of the running back devaluation because he got paid over Saquon Barkley?
No, the running back, that's had to been going that way. It's just the running back itself is just not needed as much as it was. You cannot invest big money into a running back. The reason why we're cutting Delvin Cook, if my general manager drafts a running back too high, he should be fired. And if he extends him past 2 or 3 years,
also fired.
He be fired.
Jail.
You just can't. Because they changed the way the game is played now. Wide receivers could run in the middle of the field, but they couldn't do it before because they would get their head blocked off. So now it's a safer pass to throw it at 5 yards. You don't need to build the running game as much. And we found out the running back is the least thing that has to do with the running game. The first thing is the offensive line. Second thing is scheming. And then if I have both of those together, then I can plug in a running back in there. And I think Shanahan, the first Mike, did prove that was good offensive line, a scheme. I can get you 1,300 yards. Now, a great running back will give me 17, 18. But do I want to allocate 13 to 14 million for an extra 300 to 400 yards when I could get up 2 pass rushers and a safety?
And nowadays your quarterback's getting you those 200-300 yards on the ground.
Exactly right.
Yeah, and so these guys are coming in. 29 running backs on average come into the league per year, right? And so it's a whole plethora of supply that weeds out the demand. So it's like, yeah, Saquon Barkley's good, but there's a kid running right now for Alabama that's going to replace him next year. It's just like your workforce is already being replaced so fast, where the other positions is like they're just so lean. Offensive line, the pass rusher, those guys come in. They don't fall off of trees. Running backs, you might have 5. You build more of a stable than a one back guy. I like my running game to have like 4 or 5 cats.
Then one bell cow that can get
one back.
That guy can get hurt.
It's scary,
right? Because injuries happen, man, and that's a real thing. So,
and especially now, you want to be able to catch the ball at the backfield. You want those 50 to 100 pass catching type backs. And the funny thing is, Austin Eckler, one of the guys leading the charge here, and yes, Austin Eckler deserves to be paid, But Austin Eckler a few years ago was that guy that basically made Melvin Gordon expendable.
Yeah, right.
1000%.
And you know, and the worst part about it is that you end up giving all these guys all this money. The back end of the contract is what kills you. Like that Ezekiel Elliott contract was garbage in the last 2 years. The Gurley thing was even scarier, right?
Oh
We'll
my
see how
God,
this
he broke the game.
McCaffrey thing ages. Delvin Cook, we had to cut him just so we didn't get the 15 million. He's still a good player, but not 15 million cap hit for a player.
Right.
Get out. You know this with the Jags. They couldn't wait to get Leonard Fournette. They were not re-signing. We're not re-signing no Leonard Fournette. You can leave, sir. We can get a Travis Etienne, and by the time you even get your cleats, right? And then and then if you're halfway decent, I'm just gonna tag you.
I'm just gonna tag you, and I'm gonna draft. I'm gonna give you 300 carries that year. Then you're gonna break every bone in your body, and I'm gonna get somebody else who's super cheap.
There's a kid right now playing for Texas, ready to take a spot. He just doesn't know it yet. and especially with the Chiefs getting Pachenko last year, the 7th rounder, they just tell you, like, look at, I don't even like wasting, first round draft picks on running backs. Even though they might be like, there's a guy that's in the 3rd rounder that's gonna kill it right now. The guy from Seattle was a 3rd round. That Kenneth Walker guy was like a 3rd round draft pick. He was
It's all you need. Kenyon Drake carried the ball for us for a couple of years. He was a 3rd round pick out of Kansas.
I was a little surprised when Jacksonville even drafted Etienne, but the back end,
Kenyon Drake out of Alabama.
Alabama, sorry. Who's our KSU guy? I'll come back to that. Who's our KSU guy? We drafted one guy. It's Kansas State.
The little guy.
Yep.
The little scat back guy. Yeah. What scares me with that, because Shanahan and McDaniel run that same running game, the running backs don't stay healthy in that thing, man. Mustard always gets hurt. Jeff Wilson always getting hurt. That's why I thought they'd pick up Delvin Cook, just so they have 3 or 4 of those guys, because they never last the season. I expect like week 4, Raheem Mustard, torn Achilles, like right on the bottom, kind of like there, like it's maybe because it's the one cut and they really put a lot of pressure on things, but as long as you have the offensive line and then you can scheme it. Cordell Patterson was almost running for 1,000 yards last year. This guy was a returner. Like, you can find pretty much, I don't want to say anybody to running back, but he was a killer in fantasy. People were running him as running back too. I was like, God, this guy's killing me.
Sorry, guys, it was killing me. I'm going to cut this out, but Daniel Thomas.
Hey.
Damn it. Daniel Thomas was our kid. That's who it was. Sorry about that. That was absolutely killing me.
We'll see I do got to get going, guys. It was great having this podcast. I'm going to the championship game of arena football. You couldn't bet that.
Awesome. Where's that being held at?
Dollar Loan Center right here in Henderson.
In an arena.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's I went to about 4 games last year. Our team didn't make the Super Bowl or the championship game. We were terrible. Just
the Super Arena.
Vegas Nighthawks. But they did the championship game here. Somebody got free tickets, and so we're gonna go watch.
Nice.
I think what's funny is there's 16 teams. 3 of the teams are in Arizona. Oddly enough, right? There's
Wow.
North Arizona, and then a Tucson, right? So Arizona does love their arena football.
Any chance to go indoors?
Yeah.
People are literally
All the
melting
teams are in the South. Like, there's a Frisco team, but it's Frisco, Texas.
Oh, darn.
And so this we can go check them out and stuff. So it's a little football, get you ready, right? But I'm a huge fan. It's fun, man. There's nothing like throwing a touchdown from your end zone to the other end zone because the thing's so short.
and the ball's like this big and orange or whatever.
It's like a Nerf ball.
Yeah. And then hop in the boards like the Golden Knights.
Yeah, and if they touch the board, it's the play's over, right?
Out of bounds,
yeah, and it's a and then when they score a touchdown, they have a prop thing, and so they'll put out like money guns or some guys do like the thing, and it's a whole choreographed, like you can bring props out there. One guy's doing the walker, and then he's like, oh no, I can touchdown, like and the lights go off and it stops, and then it's like, oh, what's the touchdown day it's going to be this time? And they spend, I think, just as much time practicing the sport as they do choreographing the
dances. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Hey, Brandon,
it's a show.
Will you do us a favor? Will you take us some videos, and if we do this again next week or in a couple weeks, we'll show it here and we'll all watch together.
Let's do it. You know,
Let's do it. Take some videos.
Find out who the actual people playing. But they're calling me right now because I got to go and
Go
start
for
at
it.
once.
All right.
I'm running 6 minutes.
Go
So I got to
places
go.
to stop.
Hey, thank you guys so much, man. I love talking to you guys. We'll do it
Yes.
again. All right.
Brandon, good to meet you.
All right,
See you, man.
Good to
Thank you
meet
so
you
much.
Thank you.
All right.
Maybe he'll find the next Kurt Warner, who in 1999 played for $750,000 with the St. Louis Rams.
Iowa Barnstormers before that, yes.
Iowa
Yes.
Barnstormers.
Right about an hour and a half away from me.
So you want to win a Super Bowl, get a quarterback making less than $1 million.
That's
There you
exactly
go.
right. Yeah,
And then he ended up getting a 7-year contract, 6.7 annually after that. So even back in the early 2000s, not a lot of money.
Conversely, Marshall Faulk signed the biggest contract that I think a running back had ever signed. He signed for 7 years, $45 million, so an average of $6.45 million a year in 1999 with the Rams.
It was a different era. People weren't getting paid this much. Even with inflation, it's still a race to the top to see who can reset the market. And there has one thing I actually agreed a little bit with Jim Irsay was with his pretty inflammatory kind of like very direct speak at running backs and his own Jonathan Taylor was that there is a collective bargaining agreement in place. Like there was a lot of thought and effort put into elected representatives that each side chose to come together with this agreement. And now they just want to keep breaking the market. I understand that you may be the most productive player on your team, but sometimes production doesn't necessarily equate to dollars.
Right.
So I do agree there a little bit with Jim Irsay. How it was delivered, probably not so great. You know, we can't just reset the market every time because then it's just not sustainable. That's where it's at. So pretty good to put a pin in. I'm starving. I'm gonna put a pin in this.
Yeah, me too.
I have a lot of editing to do, and man, Dan, I hope you had a good time, man. I'd love to do this again with you.
No, I did. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed having me on.
Oh, it was awesome. I would love to connect with you again, and you know, a little bit further in training camp, we can look at Hard Knocks. If you have any ideas, please, you know, maybe we should make a thread, maybe on Instagram or whatever you use, and we can talk about it. Any ideas you want to bring to the table, I'm open, and I know Dave's down. So I just want to talk football.
Yeah, absolutely. The hardest part for me, I love talking football. I'd talk it all day if I could. Hardest part for me is my work schedule is always in flux, but I'll try and always make time as much as I can.
Yeah, even if it's an evening or whatever, or however. I'm a 9 to 5er, a 9 to 6er, Monday through Friday. So usually Friday nights, Saturday mornings, things like that are good. But I'll make any concession I can. I'd like to get together with you all again.
Sounds good. When I say there's only 190 days to the Super Bowl, does that sound like a long time or not a long time?
Sounds like an eternity from now, but in 7 weeks, it's gonna be like, oh, it's already fucking week 3. Fuck, like we're just gonna,
a week from now, I can watch a preseason game of the Cowboys versus the Jaguars. I believe they play next week. I can watch fake football, and that's going to tide me over till the actual season starts. Still 190. Did you say 190?
90.
Exactly 190 days from August 5th till February 11th.
Yeah, that's a lot.
58.
But no, it needs to go slow though, because when it ends, you feel that air just get pumped out of you, like, oh,
like right now.
Good thing it gets warm outside because I don't have football anymore. It's going to be a great 190 days.
Do you get to go to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas, AC, if it's there? Are you going to try to go?
I would try. Yeah, I would definitely try. I work for a gaming corporation here. I'm in the casino business, so I would probably look through channels within my casino conglomerate to see, how I can do that. I can shoot some tickets.
Roughly 185 days to fund me and Dave getting there with you.
All right. Well, let's get together. Love to meet you in person. I've already met Dave in person. So it's. Have you been down to Vegas to do like an NFL Sunday?
I've never been to Vegas. No.
Oh man, if you ever do, I would definitely come in the wintertime. It's just horrible right now. But only 3 months of that surface of Mars weather. But whenever you want to come during the football season, man, we do it right. We do it right. It's a different way to watch football. Put a little juice on it. $20 will change your whole day. You can win hundreds of thousands.
There you go.
It's fun, man. All right, cool. Well, I'll catch you guys, and I'll cut this up, and let me know if you have a YouTube so I can tag you in it, or whatever you want me to tag you in, so you can know that it's up.
Can do.
Awesome.
All
right, boys. Go sports ball.
All right. That's a good
USA
time.
Soccer.
All right.
Football. All right. Bye. Later, guys.
All right.